like to drink even a little. New research suggests even moderate drinking could have a big impact on your brain health. British scientists tracked the drinking habits of more than 500 people for 30 years. Everyone who drank had a risk of their brain shrinking in volume. So what exactly is moderate drinking? Joining us now to discuss, we welcome our medical contributor, Dr. Ali Kasraeian. So I guess we'll say thank you for joining us. I don't know if we're going to like what we hear from you when it comes to this drinking.
I'm glad you're here, Doc.
I don't believe you guys, and I'm very scared about presenting the information today.
Well, all right. So
I must admit.
It's about moderate drinking. So let's start with you defining what moderate drinking is.
So this is very difficult in that, and it's very confusing because I can imagine everyone looking at this as one day we come and there's literature showing that it's very good to drink in a moderate level. And again, with this, you know, the American Heart Association talks about the potential benefits of, for women, 1 glass of alcohol. And a lot of people talk about red wine, and even with beer per day can be beneficial for heart and other health issues, even kind of for relaxation. For men, it can be 1 to 2 drinks per day. Up to, you know, the UK in this particular study, they even kind of talked about 5 large glasses of alcohol per week. For men, it can be up to 9 glasses per week in the US correlate of it. So it's variable in terms of how you define that based on who you read. What this study looked at in a very, very, you know, elegant way is they followed this for a long period of time, for a large amount of
30 years, right?
For people, for very, very, very specific things that they were looking at, and it ended with actually MRI studies. So they followed people looking at changes on MRI studies and also cognitive declines in terms of people, in terms of memory, speech, and things of that nature. So when you look at all this, they wanted to see how much people drink, as it translated into the effects on memory and also things they can look at. They looked at the hippocampus, which is a part of the brain that's affecting memory, which sometimes can be associated with dementia, Alzheimer's disease, things of that nature. So if that is decreased in size, could that be associated with those diseases? Could alcohol potentially impact it? And if we compare people who don't drink at all, they drink small amounts, they drink moderate amounts, they drink high amounts, which they equated to be 30 units versus
30 units a week
of alcohol per week versus
okay.
14 to 21 units per week, and you know, and that's, you know, a quantity. 1 unit they thought to be 10 milliliters of alcohol, and if you think about it in terms of 14 milliliters being a standard drink. You know, if you look at that, so if you look at 12 ounces of a beer.
Okay.
You know, being a drink.
Now we're back to the American
standard.
I don't have the whole milliliter thing.
4 ounces of wine.
Okay, that's really small.
Small amount.
So what is it really doing?
Half of that.
What is it really doing to the brain? Because we've heard for many years it kills brain cells. If you drink, it kills brain cells. But is it really shrinking? Is it damaging and just causing memory loss? What is it really doing in the MRI?
So alcohol works in many different ways. You know, later we're going to talk about breast cancer issues. They talk about, could it affect DNA? Could it potentially increase estrogen levels? And so alcohol's effect is multifactorial. So if you look, if you're drinking alcohol on the acute level, your liver has to take care of that. So that's one thing it's doing in the immediate factor. Over the long term, your liver is going to be affected because it's constantly affecting that. In the long term, in terms of the impacts on the brain here, what they were looking at was the long-term effect on various different aspects of the brain and the impact of that in terms of long-term cognitive decline, meaning the way your brain functions. And so they looked at this not only in terms of the short term, but in terms of the long term over 30 years, and they found that even moderate amount of drinking on a consistent basis could have significant impact. And here it was a large study over a long period of time, and they found significant declines, not only in terms of function, but in terms of things they could see on an MRI scan.
Was there anything in this study that surprised you?
I'll tell you, the fact that there's this consistency in terms of the things that we find over and over and over again, that common sense tells us that alcohol does have impact, and we seem to want to look for the benefit of it.
But there have been studies on the benefit to the heart, correct?
Right, in small amounts in moderation.
Okay.
We seem to want to search for something to tell us that it's okay to go and binge drink in large amounts and to consistently drink over a long period of time. There aren't studies that are going to tell us that. And when you look at this, you have to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, is that if you do most things in moderation for the right reason, it's different, you know, and you have to be true to yourself. If you're drinking 5 drinks a week, where you go have a small glass of wine at night to unwind, it's much different than if you're going out, you know, 2-3 times a week and drinking 7 drinks, and it's causing significant impact on your life, and you're finding that to be associated with negative behavior. What this is telling us is that alcohol can have significant impact on your brain. And that can translate into significant impact that is seen not only in terms of cognitive decline that is matched with imaging findings that are in point affecting the parts of the brain that are associated with that decline.
Now, you did mention something else, and there is a new report from the World Cancer Research Fund and the American Institute for Cancer Research that says drinking even a small amount of wine, beer, hard liquor every day raises the risk of breast cancer. So what can you tell us about this?
So this was a very interesting review of about 119 studies. So that by looking at a lot of studies, it translates into 12 million women, 260,000 cases of breast cancer. But I put a little bit of a caveat on that, whenever you pool data, it sometimes makes the analysis of this not necessarily as strong as one very well done study that's a prospective randomized study where you have a group of women who don't drink anything, a group of women like the previous study where light drinkers, moderate drinkers, and large volume drinkers, and then you follow breast cancer risks over time in a prospective manner. And these are retrospective analyses where they went back and they asked women about their drinking history. So that may not be quite as accurate than if you had a number of women, and like for here, if we did a study and we have 4 women, 1 person doesn't drink, and I say you're going to drink this much, you're going to drink this much, you're going to drink this much, and we follow you through time and we see exactly what happens. That would be a very well done study to see exactly what the impact of alcohol or physical activity and exercise, which is another part of this that was studied, has on breast cancer risk. So when you look at that, we have to take it with a little bit of grain of salt. And then the other thing is, this study did not come out and say an outward or did not show a causal association between alcohol and breast cancer. It was an association. So they found that women who drank 10 grams, and again, a standard drink has about 14 grams of alcohol. A small amount of alcohol had an associated increased risk of breast cancer, which for premenopausal women was about 5%, for postmenopausal women was about 9%. So this wasn't something like 100% of women who drank got breast cancer.
So what do you take from this?
So what I take from this is moderation. Be mindful. You know, again, with this, take responsible alcohol use. You know, be mindful of daily drinking. If you begin to notice that, be careful about how you're looking at alcohol behavior, and if it's something that you're concerned about, it's important to take mind to. And then if you have a family history of breast cancer and you're noticing that your alcohol use is beginning to become consistent or excessive, this is an important study to take in mind. The other thing that's very important in this study, they found that vigorous exercise use or even moderate exercise was significantly or was associated with a significant decrease in breast cancer risk. So that is a fantastic thing to keep in mind from that. And the other thing with the alcohol aspect is they didn't really have an answer for it. Their potential thoughts or theories. One is that alcohol use can increase the estrogen level, which has been associated with breast cancer. The other one is we know alcohol can cause DNA damage, and that's been associated with cancer in general. So
maybe drinking wine on a bicycle. How does that?
Or drink after you work out.
So with that, the thing that could be dangerous is you would be potentially, depending on how much you're drinking,
maybe a stationary.
You could be potentially pulled over for a DUI.
Stationary bicycle.
I was going to say you potentially spill it. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, no, that would be a crime right there.
Dangerous.
It's all perspective. It's all perspective.
What about the glasses of wine that the whole bottle fits in? That's just one glass. Okay, just kidding.
Again, it depends on the amount of the glass.
I'm just kidding. Thank you so much, Dr. Kasraeian. This is medical contribution, and I haven't had any wine.
That went much better than I thought it could.
Was furnished by
Thank
Kasraeian
you,
Urology. You can hear more from Dr. Kasraeian on his weekend radio show, The Conversation. It airs Saturdays on WOKV from 5 to 6. All right, coming up next, her mission is to help and heal. We're going to meet grief mediator Gail Trauco when we come back.
Next Jeopardy!
Balak learned a very important